Next property of metals is whether they are good conductors of electricity or not. Now this is a circuit, and if a piece of metal is connected between the terminals A and B, this bulb will glow, which shows that metals are good conductors of electricity. Now all the electrical wires, they have a coating of polyvinyl chloride or a rubber-like material. Now what is the reason behind this? This wire, electric wire, which is made up of metal, is a good conductor of electricity. So it is always coated with some bad conductor of electricity. For example, a rubber-like material, that is polyvinyl chloride, to prevent shock due to electric current on touching the wire. What happens when metals strike a hard surface? When metals strike a hard surface, they emit sound, and this property of metals is known as sonority, or metals are said to be sonorous, meaning they make a sound when they are struck on a hard surface. Non-metals, example of non-metals are sulfur, iodine, oxygen, hydrogen, carbon, etc. And non-metals are either solids or gases except bromine, which is liquid. So a non-metal which is liquid is bromine. Now comparing the properties of metals and non-metals, in table 3.1, an element which is a metal and element which is a non-metal can be taken and comparison of the properties can be made. Now first point, all metals exist in solid at room temperature, exception is mercury. Mercury exists as liquid at room temperature. Metals have high melting points, but gallium and cesium, they have very low melting points. These two metals will melt if you keep them on your palm. A non-metals are usually not lustrous, they do not have shine, they are dull, they do not have shiny surface, but iodine is a non-metal which is lustrous, so iodine is exception here. Carbon is a non-metal and it exists in different forms. The different forms of carbon are called its allotrope. One of them is diamond, which is hardest natural substance known and has very high melting and boiling point. Graphite is another allotrope of carbon and it is a good conductor of electricity. Now graphite is not hard like diamond, graphite is soft and it is a good conductor of electricity. Alkali metals, lithium, sodium, potassium, they are so soft that they can be cut with a knife. They have low densities and low melting points. So type of surface, metals usually have shiny surface and non-metals have dull surface. Hardness, metals are usually hard, exception is sodium and potassium, which are soft metals. Non-metals are usually not as hard as metals. Diamond, which is allotrope of carbon, is the hardest substance known. Otherwise, non-metals are usually soft. Malleability, metals are malleable, non-metals are not malleable. Ductility, metals are ductile, non-metals are not ductile. Conduction of electricity, conducts electricity, metals are good conductors of electricity, non-metals are poor conductors of electricity. Sonority, metals are sonorous, non-metals are not sonorous. Now, on the basis of chemical properties, metals and non-metals can be distinguished. For example, take a magnesium ribbon and some sulfur powder. Magnesium is a metal, sulfur is a non-metal. Burn the magnesium ribbon in air. When magnesium is burnt in air, it forms magnesium oxide. Magnesium oxide is a white powder. Now, this magnesium oxide, when dissolved in water, it gives a solution which turns red litmus to blue. Next, sulfur powder. Burn the sulfur powder. Place the test tube over the burning sulfur to collect the fumes produced. Sulfur burns in air to form sulfur dioxide gas. Add some water to the above test tube and shake. What happens? Sulfur dioxide will dissolve in water, giving sulfurous acid. Now this solution of sulfurous acid will turn blue litmus to red. Is the product formed on burning sulfur acidic or basic? The product formed on burning sulfur is acidic. acidic, and the product formed on burning magnesium is basic. So metal oxides are basic in nature. Solution of metal oxides turn red litmus to blue, and non-metal oxides are acidic in nature, that is, the solution of non-metal oxides turn blue litmus to red. So most nonmetals produce acidic oxides when dissolved in water. On the other hand, most metals give rise to basic oxides. Now questions. Give an example of a metal which is a liquid at room temperature. Mercury. Can be easily cut with knife. Sodium is best conductor of heat. Copper is a poor conductor of heat. Lead. Explain the meanings of malleable and ductile. Malleable means it can be beaten into sheets. Ductile means it can be drawn into wire.